All right, welcome everyone to Florida Hockey Bros podcast. My name is David. I'm joined by my brother Dariel. We're gonna be reviewing the game last night where we got shut out by the Jets, the Winnipeg Jets, and as well as the matchup with the Boston Bruins. And we'll give a bit of our observations as usual on how well the team has played so far in the season. What are some of the weaknesses that we've noticed? And I think we've both kind of noticed the same thing. We've always gone back and forth on the scoring, and last night you sent me some texts last night with some really good points, not just on the Panthers, but in comparing them to other teams and why we're just not there yet, and why we were kind of exposed in the finals last year with the lack of playmaking and scoring and just overall skill, right? We've always talked about the team kind of lacking that star power. We as fans thought that, Barkov, Huberdeau, and Trocheck were like superstars, and in a way they are and they were, but yeah. Last night was Paul Maurice had a funny quote that I just read about the home teams. So there were 15 games last night, and he said that I think 13 of those home teams lost. Which actually it is really weird now that you look at it. If you look how lethargic, like the Leafs played really bad, just as bad as the Panthers played last night. The Hurricanes started off really well.
Very uncharacteristic. A lot of Dallas lost to Flames 7-4. They lost 7 goals. The Lightning scored 8 on Carolina.
Yeah,
just weird shit. And I think it is 100% that everybody was home and got drunk and ate a lot of turkey. So that's just what it is. It's just, we look like shit because we're not ready for the game. So
yeah, and I don't know how much you want to get into the specifics of last night.
Yeah,
it was very strange. Like Paul Maurice said, it was strange. And he didn't.
They looked off the whole team, bro.
Well, he mentioned he didn't mention by name, of course, but he's like, we have guys with clear scoring chances trying to pass it off, and then you have guys that have to pass and they're trying to shoot it on net. It was just a strange game. So I don't know how deep we want to get into that. It does bring out, or you can say expose, some of the weaknesses that we've noticed with the Panthers since last year, even the President's Trophy year. Although I will say that President's Trophy year was the exception, right? Because our offense was pretty awesome. We had 3 lines that were rolling. Lundell was coming along as a rookie, I think. And that third line with Marchment and Reinhardt was going off. It was different. We had a stacked team. We just didn't have the defense.
Yeah, I mean, people forget that that's not a good barometer because they had the freedom, their system was to go all out on offense. The defensemen would pinch in. How many times do you see Weegar and Ekblad and other guys just pinching in all the way to the back of the net? They played like forwards. They were cycling the whole time. They were free playing through the neutral zone, trying to go as fast as possible, send 3-4 guys in on the rush. And that looks pretty and it's really fun. And it gets you a lot of goals when your guys are all clicking, and that team just clicked. But then you get to the playoffs and you can't do shit, because I still remember against the Capitals, we had nothing. I mean, we won because we had all that talent and the Capitals didn't. But and Cito stacked up the team with Giroux and Sherratt and all those guys. But the truth is that will never translate to the playoffs, and we see it with the Leafs and stuff. So anyway, I don't use that as an example. That's not what I think the Panthers need to shoot for. We don't need to score a bunch of goals like that, but we just need balance. And to me, yesterday is obvious that the team didn't have it. So maybe that's not the game you want to look at. I think the Boston game, where we actually were pretty good for a lot of the game, we started super strong, couldn't score, then allowed a goal. To me, that was a game that where you see, I mean, Allmark was on, but you need 1 or 2 guys that are game breakers, on offense. And what I mean by that is, I mean scoring. A guy that can put it top shelf, a guy that can just snipe it or make a move. Like we saw Ehlers yesterday go around Baliscus, make a move and score, right? Like, when is the last time you saw a Panther do that? Verhage doesn't really do that, right? Like our scorers, like, they don't really do that. Reinhardt doesn't really do that.
No,
They're not elite scorers, and Verhage is a really good scorer, but he honestly this year I've noticed like the rest of his game is absolute trash.
he's
Right
very
now.
sloppy. He's a really good shooter. Like, has a
That's
great
it.
wrister.
You know, he's
But
got
you
speed.
have to
He's
set
got
him up.
speed and shooting, but like he's not a great puck handler. He's not. He's turning it over a lot. He's been put on the power play and he scored 1 goal, but outside of that, has looked like crap. He's losing a lot of board battles. And if you don't need him to be the board guy, like you have other Kachuk and Bennett for that, but then you need him to have then a guy who can weave, who can cycle. He doesn't carry the puck. He doesn't cycle. We don't have a lot of guys that can cycle in the zone because we don't have that level of skating outside of Montour. I mean, you see Montour do that quite often because he's got the skating for it. Barkov can do it a little bit. Rodriguez tries because he's got the speed, but he doesn't have the skill. He's not an elite skill player. So we need 1 or 2 guys like that. And so to my mind, the construction of the team, that's what I've seen through 20 games. Like we have a good record. We're shooting for 100 points or over, which will get us in outside of the wild card. If we can sustain just this, we'll be okay. And I'm hoping we get better because we have more people back and all that. And guys are still not. There's a lot of guys underperforming. Like Bennett has been trash since coming back. He had told you he has 1 point in 8 games, -5. He's been terrible for his standard. Montour doesn't look like himself yet at all. Eblets look okay, but not, hasn't scored or set up people. So I think we'll be better. I think we'll be fine. I'm not worried about the makeup of the team. I'm not worried about our record unless something like completely breaks down. And given how we play without some of our starters, I have confidence that our team, when it plays hard, it'll win and beat the lesser teams. I worried about the top competition when we play them because of a lack of scoring. And so that's where I'm at with the team, man. I am, you told me yesterday I'm so tired of Cousins, and I am too, and it's nothing against the guy itself, even though he got a couple of bad penalties yesterday, whatever. But we have so many Cousins, man, and we keep saying that. Like, I'm just tired of like Lusty and Cousins and Rodriguez, and Reinhardt is kind of a high-end version of those guys. And we need to have one or two modern NHLers. We need the small skaters, the fast skaters. We got them. They're kids. I'll talk about them later. They may not be ready yet to join this team yet, but for next season, I do think our periphery players need to be younger and more skilled than half our team is like 3rd or 4th liners, right now. And I know it's a cap issue. I mean, I'll let you sort of talk, but there are a lot of cap reasons, I think, why we have this makeup. But starting next year, I think Cito needs to blow it up a bit in terms of like getting rid of a couple contracts. He's got to figure out a way to do that.
Yeah, and I think that we'll get into that. We'll get into that next. The cap issues and everything that you were talking about, different scenarios that they could, different routes that Cito could take to improve the team. It doesn't mean that we can't win now or anything like that. It's just that I think it's evident that it's not so much the goal scoring, because we're scoring goals just okay. We're like middle of the pack in the East. But we have like one more goal than like the Canadians, that type of stuff. And I think it does matter. I haven't seen them this year break out yet. They haven't had like those good scoring games where like they win like 6-1, and in the winning streak, it was a little deceiving. And during it, I kind of thought about it. I didn't want to say anything. I'm like, yeah, okay, we beat Chicago. We beat the Blue Jackets. We beat some bad teams, and they were tight games at the end, which is fine. It's the NHL. But I think that's what's kind of like, I've been keeping an eye on the Avalanche and on the Kings. Like the Kings are a great example. They're winning all these games. Like by the end of the first period, the game is over. The Kings are they're 4-0 every game in the second period. There's just ways that, and I know that that's not us, but there's ways that a team can improve and kind of maybe just go top heavy and leave your 3rd and 4th line the way it is, and just kind of shuffle those lines and kind of at some point you have to recognize, like, okay, Lusterinen, this is who he is, and he is getting paid decent for a third liner, so he needs to contribute as a third liner. Lundell should be looking for a contract. I don't see it. There's something with Lundell's like stuck in second gear. He's been stuck in second gear for a while. He just doesn't. I was watching him yesterday, and like he just goes into the zone, and he just doesn't know what to do. He doesn't know how to find guys. There was one play he just went in, dumped it in, went after it, passed it back to no one, and he just came out the zone. And it's just weird things like that where I don't know what it is. I don't know how it could be fixed, but so far, so we're exactly 20 games in for the Panthers. Obviously, if they keep up this pace, we'll get 100 points, 104, something like that. And that'll be fine. But I think my biggest concern beyond just the game last night and the Bruins, just like you mentioned, it's that against top competition, we won't have the scoring. And every time we go against a good goalie, that's a loss. Schedule that loss, basically. Because we just can't get past it. And I think last night was a little bit of an exception. We didn't get goalie last night. We barely got pucks to the goalie last night.
Yeah, no. And I think, to me, I mean, we just have to admit that our guys, like our team makeup, we have Tkachuk and Barkov, who are mainly players who are smart and make the most out of their physical attributes and can set people up, right? Their main thing is to set people up. Tkachuk is not a great shooter. He goes to the front of the net, and that hasn't worked as much this season as it did last year early on, our first 20 games. So we'll see if that changes like later on in the season. So he's not scoring a lot, but he's still getting points. He can set people up, but he needs guys around to complement his game, either to get the pucks to the net for him, where there's the defense jumping in or other wingers. Bennett is not a great center in terms of setup. He's not like an elite passer or elite scorer. He's kind of like, quite frankly, a little bit average for a second line center, which is fine because in the playoffs, he gives you the physicality. He can score key goals here or there. So our makeup is different. Like, I was telling you yesterday, like Tampa 2C Stamkos, and like, for Tavares, for, in Toronto, Colorado has like 3 or 4 great forwards and 3 or 4 great defensemen who can score. Their makeup is different because we're spending so much money on Ekblad and on, and on Bob, the $10 million. We still have Gandalf's like $1.2 million from the buyout this year, next season. So the cap is like really tight. Those $19 million that you're putting into a guy who's not there, and then 2 guys that don't give you, quite frankly, the value, because now, Ekblad's contract doesn't look as bad with guys, defensemen getting 9 or 10 million. But before that, he was one of the best paid guys, and he wasn't putting up the elite numbers, and he also wasn't like an elite defender in his own zone, and he's been injured. So Bob is placed like a $4 or $5 million goalie at best during the regular season. So if you were paying him that, then you have $5-6 million for a top 6 scorer. And so our team makeup will be different. So we don't have that. We have a lot of journeyman guys who've had career years. Bennett, Reinhardt, first round picks that were okay, in their teams, and then we've made them into something, but they're not the elite talent. They just don't have that, right? And Lundell's kind of like that. Like Lundell's really good. He's not as good as Barkov. He's not a top 5 pick. He's not a top 3 pick or first overall pick. He's never going to be that. His ceiling is being a 2C, which is fine. Like that, you need a great 2-way. He's still very young. That's why he struggles. That's why he's inconsistent. You can't expect a guy like that who's not an elite player, like elite, to just give you all of that. He also needs better complement. Like Lusty has struggled to score this season, and Cousins, like, if he's on your line, you're going to struggle. Like, I'm sorry, he's just not. He's all over the place. Like, he's falling all over the place. He's getting penalties, he's turning it over. He works hard. He has like 2 goals this season or whatever, man. Like, that's not, Lundell's not a natural scorer. He's not going to give you 30 or 40 goals. He's like Barkov. So you got to give him somebody who can at least go to the front of the net or find the open ice. So Lundell will find him. Like, Lundell's a good passer. And Lusty also is not a natural scorer. Like Marie said, the hope is that he could be that. He's just a 2-way guy. So again, these guys in the playoffs will have value because they'll defend, it gets tighter. That fancy passing won't matter as much. You need guys who can cycle, guys who can battle on the board, and Lundell has gotten better at that. Lusty's really good at that. They just need another guy with them that can score, And so to me, it's a line balance. Like, our third line doesn't have a scorer. Our second line only has a scoring when you put Verhage there, but he's been crap. And then Bennett and Kachuk are struggling. And then the first line, you got Rodriguez, who's the third liner, and Reinhardt, who's been great. And I am appreciating his game more and more because of what he gives you all around. Like, I actually would rather at this point keep him over Verhage. But at the bottom line is we need to either bring one free agent or make a trade for a top 6 winger who can just score, even if defensively they're not, because Verhage is not a great defender. Ben is not a great defender, to be honest. Like, so if you're going to have guys who are like liabilities on defense, like put Mackey in, because he, now I'm talking about right now, but I'm saying maybe next season, maybe he'll give you 20, 30, but he also gives you so much more than that because he can skate, he can circle, he can pass, he has great vision, assertive. And to me, that's what I want to see next season. I want our periphery guys. You got Lusty locked up, you got Rodriguez locked up. Maybe you resign Reinhardt. The other 2 spots, Verhage is probably going to go. We need a first-round pick. We need some movement. I don't know if Ekblad's going to get traded or not, maybe. But we need sort of, like, I want to see sort of where Cousins is playing. I think he will give you just immediately better play, better skill. He'll make mistakes, but so does Cousins. Cousins turns it over, he falls over, he takes bad penalties. Like, sort of will give you maybe a little bit of that as a young player, but he's going to give you great passing, great speed, physicality. He wins puck battles. Like, you see it on the AHL. I'll talk about that later. There's an interview with Greg Campbell, who's the assistant GM for the Panthers, who talked about our top prospects. And so I want us to see those guys, like the modern NHLers, come in already and take over the spots, because the skill level for those guys way above what we have. Like, straight up, you can see it. These are like great picks by Cito. So I want to see more of that infusion. And then if we go to free agency or make a trade, I want to see us get 1 or 2 guys where the priority is the skill, because we have enough like grit. We have the grit, like keep Gadjevich around, or keep Lawrence, or keep whatever. But like, you could keep a few of those guys, Lomberg. But beyond that, man, I'm tired of the average struggle just to score. We have 11.5 goals scored under expected. Which is, at some point, that's just the shooting is bad. Like, we are getting a ton of chances. We should have 69 goals in the season. We only have 58. Like, that is a difference for 3 more wins. We could be an elite team right now. We could be at the level of the Bruins. So anyway, that's kind of where I'm at. And Bob doesn't, he played well last night, but that first goal, that cannot go in. That cannot go in. That kind of a game, like, your goalie could have bailed you out at least and make it a game. But he never stops any breakaways. Like, that's, so anyway, like it's the flaws are there. And I think Maurice is prioritizing a system. We're never going to beat another team 6-1, bro. That's not going to happen with Maurice's system, because that you would need an open game for that, or to get very lucky. So what I think, which is, I'm fine with that. We can be the Bruins. The Bruins win 3-1. Like, I'm okay winning those kinds of games. But then our defense is elite right now. First or second in most categories. So Bob's got to play well. We got to shut it down. And then you need to get 3 to 4 goals a game to be able to give you that opportunity to win. And I'm okay doing that, because that translates to the playoffs better than if you open it up and then you got to adjust. But give me the freaking skill, man. Like, in a game like yesterday, maybe you 1 or 2 guys who can like weave and shoot it up is what makes the difference, right? When your team stinks. The Leafs do that. The Leafs don't, like, half the times the Leafs win, they don't deserve to win. But their skill guys like score on the power play. Look at Tampa yesterday. They had 7 shots on goal in the second period. They had 3 goals on the power play. And that was the game, And then just like, Carolina probably tried to open it up after that, and they got destroyed. So anyway, that's my frustration with the team. It's like, I'm not asking for 2021 or 2022, whatever season. I'm asking for, give me 1 or 2 guys, man, that like on a night like yesterday when nothing's going, can at least draw penalties, or says, fuck it, I'm going to play hero hockey today. In the regular season, you kind of need those guys. And as long as they play in the system in the playoffs, then it's fine. But anyway, I think it'll be okay this year. Yesterday was a trash game, but damn, man, so frustrating.
Yeah, I think it's frustrating because it's the same flaws. It was just, they were amplified yesterday. It's the lack of scoring, where in other games, maybe we score, 2-3 goals and we still lose, and you need that extra goal or 2 to get you over the hump. So I think that's the biggest frustration, and I think it's clear. Like you're not gonna get it from some of these guys, like you mentioned, like Kachuk and Barkov they need line mates. They're not, Austin Matthews and the Brinkat or whatever. Like Kachuk can give you 40 goals, sure, but that's not even his game. If the power play is not clicking, he's not gonna get those 100 points. He's not gonna get them this year, obviously, but yeah, I think that and we can talk about the prospects a little bit if you want to get into that now. I do think that there's some moves that they'll have to make next year. You already talked about the kids, Sortif and Mackey Samaskevich. So yeah, what else have you seen? I know that you've been following Devine as well, Jack Devine, and some of the other names out there. But what's the progression that you've seen down there? Because I know that Sortif was injured and he's been playing center lately since he came back and all that. So yeah, talk us through all that.
Yeah, no, I mean the whole point was I would say that with Devine, like last night he had another big game. Like he's tied for first in goals and tied for second in points in all of college. So he's having an elite season. He's on pace to score like 63 points and 35 or 36 goals. And again, I mentioned on another episode that Mackey, his great season last year had 43 points and 20 goals. So that just lets you know that Devine is having an even better season than that. And he just turned 20. So he's a guy that I think he's going to be that next Mackey spot for us, where he's going to, I think the cycle is going to be that Devine comes in next season to play in the AHL for a full year, get ready to then come up, hopefully, the following year. And I think the other guy that no one kind of talks about, he was a 6th-round pick. Everybody calls Baby Lombard, Josh Davis. He's playing in Portland with Marek Alsher, who's our defender, who's more of a defensive guy. He doesn't put up points, but he's like plus 11. He's a really good defender. Josh Davis is having a hell of a season. He's on pace to score 60 goals right now for the full game season in the WHL. And I told you, like, for reference, Connor Bedard had 71 goals last year. The second place guy in scoring in the WHL in goals had exactly 50 goals. And right now, Davis is on pace for 60. So that's just, that, this is a 19-year-old that Cito picked in the 6th round, more of a physical, small guy. Like, that's why they call him Baby Longberg. But this dude, like, just took off now and is starting to score, like, really consistently. So I think him and Devine will probably play in the AHL next season, and that those two guys are going to make it. I think younger guys like Sauching and Coughlin, I think, will either go back to juniors or go to college because they need more time to bulk up and grow because they're small. So that's kind of going to be the cycle. I think Bill Manis, who's had a really good season and is playing better than last year, will probably go to the AHL and take that McAllister spot, Ryan McAllister. McAllister's playing a bit of a rotation player role in the AHL where he plays like 3 out of 4 games, and then he like gets sat for a game so somebody else can come in. Like he didn't play last night, he'll play today because they have a back-to-back. And McAllister's putting up points, so he's been great. Reza Sashing and Luke Coughlin are probably going to go back to juniors next year, probably get a year in college or something, maybe just to bulk up. And Bill Manis would probably come in and take McAllister's spot in the AHL. Ryan McAllister has been a rotation player in the AHL, playing like 3 out of 4 games. I think he's going to be a regular AHLer next season and one of the guys that we call up. Mm-hmm. And I think Bill Manis will become a rotation guy. So there's a lot of good pipeline now happening with us. But the main thing was Greg Campbell, the assistant GM for the Panthers, got interviewed yesterday. It was like some prospect hockey thing on Sirius XM, I think. And they asked him specifically about the 4 guys in the AHL, Mackey, Sortif, Benning, and Naus. And for what he said is what I've been telling you, like what I've been seeing, because I've been watching the games. Sortif is playing first-line center right now. They're really putting him like the spotlight on him as the guy. He's killing penalties and he's playing on the power play. He's being put in every situation. He looks like he's better than pretty much all the other guys on the team in terms of being an all-around player. He's looked better to me than Lockwood or Asplund. Those guys are really good, and Asplund has had a really good last couple of weeks. But Sortif is just like taking off. And they were talking about how his growth last season in the AHL, like he just really grew. had really solid production, and then they saw through camp and with the Panthers how good he had evolved, and now he's being given a responsibility that he didn't have last season. So this bodes well for his growth and for him to come in to the Panthers. He may not play center for us, maybe, but he can, and he can kill penalties and he play power play and all that stuff. And he's been really producing. He's a point per game right now. And just looks so good, man. Like he wins a lot of puck battles. He just looks like an NHLer. And he's still only 21. And Mackey has gotten a lot stronger. I think Mackey struggled early on. I have to say they put him in certain lines where I just didn't see the fit. He was playing with Mayhew, who's incredibly selfish, or Alexander True, who's a center who doesn't pass the puck. He likes to just like keep the puck and try to make his own plays. And then he played with Dalby, who's kind of a power forward these days, not even playing center. And it's kind of slow. Like the skill match wasn't there. You could see that Mackey would make great passes and guys would turn it over or whatever, or he would be on an island and, two guys would go and take the puck from him. Finally, I think Kinnear, the coach, figured it out, put him with Sordiff on the first line with Asplund, who's also a center, but he's playing wing. And those three guys are fast, skilled, smart, can pass, can shoot. And the last two games, they've been lighting it up. So I think they figured out that these guys got to play together. They got to play with a skill level. And I'm hoping that will translate for next season for them to come up and be part of the team. So I do think Mackey and Sordiff should be in our top 9 next year. I think they'll be ready after an AHL season because Mackey's looking a lot stronger, a lot more confident. And then now they just said that they want to see him bulk up. He's a skinny, tall guy, and he's being more of a rotation guy on defense. But they said that he's been getting games, and he's going to continue to get more games. I think he'll become a regular starter next season. But the guy that I've always talked to you about, Mike Benning, they said that Benning didn't look as great during the camp and during the preseason because he hadn't played in forever. You got to remember when he came to the Panthers, he didn't go to the AHL. He didn't play at all. So he went a long time after he finished his college season early on. And Denver got eliminated kind of early that year because they won the championship the year before, but they got eliminated early. And so he spent months and months and months without playing. So he looked rusty, and you could tell. But then he says the first 6 weeks of the season in the AHL, he's been incredible. And he's earned a top pair play with Lucas Carlson. He's been in that spot. He's locked down that spot, which, Carlson is all offense. He doesn't play any defense. So they're trusting Benning to be that two-way defender. And he's also played with Fitzgerald on the left. So they've actually used him on both sides, and he's showing versatility to be able to do that. He doesn't look lost. He doesn't look beaten despite being small. So I'm really high on Benning from what I can see. He looks like a legit player, like a very smart player, playing off the puck and anticipating. So anyway, I think Benning is going to be in the running to be in our top 7 or 8 defenseman next season, the way he's playing right now, because he's taking Kinunen's spot. He's taking Kiersta's spot down there in like 6 weeks. So anyway, Greg Campbell was saying how these guys that look great and they're learning and growing and they're really excited. So I think they are going to invest in them. I think Cito is going to push for some of these kids to play. And that's the good news for Panther fans next season. We'll have fresh players who actually have like elite skill. These kids have the level of skill that a lot of our guys, like our bottom 6 or like bottom pairs, don't have. So anyway, I'm excited for those guys, man. It's good. They look like they're legit.
Sounds good. Sorry about that. I don't know what happened to the screen. All right. Yeah, I think at the very least, Mackey and Sordiff need to be plugged in at some point, even if it's this year. Ride it out for the rest of the season if you have to clear cap space to bring in Kane or another winger. Yeah, I think we are, like you mentioned, we have grit for days. All our lines have a little bit of grit, except for maybe the top line, and even so, I mean, Reinhardt can punch with his face pretty well.
He got one left in, but then he got destroyed. But also, like, he shouldn't. The other guy dropped the gloves on him. I have to say, kind of forced him into the fight, and you can tell Reinhardt is never he's not a fighter. And that other guy's like a real a legit fighter and huge defenseman. So that was kind of a bullshit move by that guy.
I don't get those guys. I don't get those guys that like they'll see, like who the tough guys are in the league. So like they know who Reinhardt is, and like
he should have grabbed them and like throw him down or pin him against the boards, but he shouldn't have gotten into a fight. That's like, a bullcrap move.
Yeah, even if you fight, okay, fight. But like dude was throwing like all these haymakers. I'm like, bro, you're not fighting like Goudas or you know what I mean? Like it's whatever, it's fine. I don't care. Those guys, they live for that stuff. But yeah, we have a lot of grit and a lot of feistiness already. You could see it against Boston, against the Bruins. That was a really good first period. There was a lot of hits, a lot of intensity, and a lot of chances and no scoring. So just balance that out a little bit. And when we say balance it out, we're just talking about the attack. We're not talking about like better defense and all that, because the defense is doing just fine. Last night and the Bruins game were examples of games that the goaltending let us down a little bit and the offense just wasn't there. But yeah, we'll wrap it up there. We'll have another video coming out same day with some NHL takes. We'll talk a little bit about what's going on around the league and the standings and that type of stuff. So yeah, anything else you want to add?
No, just after all the rants and stuff, just saying that Cito, I told you yesterday, I think Cito gets it, and that's what I think we should be optimistic about. He's trying to get Tarasenko. I think he was one of the guys in number 2Z. He's trying to get Kane. You know, everybody says we're a front runner. If Kane wants to take a discount, he can come here. So he knows we need the scoring, because those guys are not great defenders, you know, but those guys will give you the scoring. And so Cito knows that we need that. And I do think he's going to move on either from Verhaeghe or Reinhardt, because we cannot afford them. But this is not it. He knows this makeup is not long-term, the exact makeup. So a combination of getting another guy like that who can score 30 or 40, but more consistently and can complement Barkov plus the kids next season, I think we're going to have a more balanced team and younger team. And I think he'll move on from Bob and all that, even if he has to retain salary. So I think Cito gets it. I'm not worried. I don't think he's like 100% happy with this team. And he brought all this $1 million guys because he had to. We needed the depth because we had guys injured, and you know he needed to keep that core and keep that consistency. But and I agree that Mackey and Sordif are not ready to play this year because we're trying to contend. But anyway, next season will be a lot better in terms of skill. I'm pretty sure.
Yeah. All right. We'll wrap it up there. We'll catch you guys in a little bit. Thank you for watching. Don't forget to subscribe, hit like on the video, and we'll catch you on the next one.